monitored and recorded. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now.
So I'm on level 4, which is one of the highest levels of security in prison. They have level 4s 270s, and there's level 4 180s, and they have the SHU, which is security housing unit.
That's
so
like...
I'm on a level 4 270.
Wait, hold on. What is the SHU?
And the SHU is the security housing unit where you basically only get 1 hour. You get the bare minimums. And visiting's behind glass. You only get 1 package a year. They barely started giving guys like better opportunities to like wear normal clothes, not just in their boxers all the time, letting them have a cup in the bowl instead of just eating out of their milk carton.
So is that like solitary confinement? Or no?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Yes. Okay, continue. I just was curious because I wasn't sure if that was different.
Alright, so I'm in the level 4 270, which is we get to mingle a lot more, but it's not like a level 3 or level 2 or level 1. But a lot of guys that get 115s and they mess up from fighting or whatever, they end up over here on the level 4. And they have hobbycraft at the prisons that they were just at because the security risk is lower. So they get paintbrushes, no matter how sharp that the handles are. They get easels, they get canvases, they get all types of acrylics and stuff. So what I do when they come over is try to buy it all.
Mm-hmm.
I just try to buy it all with whatever I hustle off the tier. So I'll just buy it all. And then I'll use that, but it's very limited because, well, I paint like crazy and I'll run out. So when I run out, what I do is I'll burn soot from like hair grease because that's usually what we make our tattooing out of.
Mm-hmm.
But I realize you can make paint out of this if you just use wax. So we get...
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
We get wax from like waxing the floors, but if you mix it with the soot that you burn from like these little homemade candles that we make when we're burning hair grease, it's super black.
Mm-hmm.
Like super black. So that's what I make my black paint out of. And my browns and skin tones, I'll use coffee. I'll use white chalk from certain types of cheap toothpaste. I'll use wax and cheap toothpaste to develop white.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get white charcoal and I'll grind it down. That's what I make my whites out of. Sometimes we use Skittles, but we're no longer able to get those because of the sugar. They don't want people to get sugar here because of they make whiskey basically.
Wait, are you not allowed?
Are
you not allowed to have candy at all?
No, nothing with sugar in it. We can only get sugar-free stuff.
What about like honey buns and like pastries? Is that different?
Well, yeah, you can get honey buns and pastries. But you just can't get like Starburst Skittles.
Oh wow.
Sour Skittles, things like that, lemon heads. Things
So
that we used to get. We used to get like all types of little candies like that.
Mm-hmm.
Not more.
When did they stop giving you guys that stuff?
Chocolate candy and sugar-free candy, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. When did that stop?
About 2012.
Oh, okay. So that's why people go fucking ham on like candy at Visit, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I like noticed that.
By people, you mean me.
Well, yeah, you included for sure. You have a problem with sugar. But I get it now. You never told me that. I had no idea that you guys couldn't get like actual candy. So I just thought you had like the gnarliest sweet tooth ever.
A lot of times what I'll do too is I'll stack up with ink pens and I'll mix them with oils and lotions so they spread really good. But they kind of ruin the paintbrush, so I'll use a paintbrush that I have an extra of, or a paintbrush that I'm willing to sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'll use a certain type of inks from pens and stuff.
Will you tell me about?
That's basically it. I'm using the bare minimums, dude. But coffee is such a good medium for me because I could just go nuts with the different tones of coffee.
Right. Can you tell me about when you have to make your own paintbrushes? Because I know you've had to do that before.
Oh, time, that's when I'm like either in the hole because I messed up, or recently when I went out to court, they stripped to like nothing. We had nothing but our paper jumpsuit and we're in our underwear, and there's just nothing going on. And I got a hold of a pen that I found on the floor, and so I was able to use that ink and hair that I snipped off. Luckily, I know how the county jail is, so I know in certain corners of the cell, other inmates that are there will leave razor blades that they came up on, and they'll usually leave them tucked in corners of the bunks. So it's just like something, I don't know, it's kind of weird. Like, we'll kind of do that for each other, but you kind of have to have like experience of being locked up to know that there's always going to be razor blades like tucked in the bunks.
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking and I found one after I was cleaning and stuff. So I snipped off some of my hair and tied it onto a little stick that I made with rolled up paper. And I made different size paintbrushes, one really skinny, one kind of thick, and one really thick.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of went nuts with this little pen and water. They didn't give us coffee there, but I used this little pen and water, and it came out kind of cool, and it was kind of surprising. Like, I still have a couple of them.
Right. And what do you normally paint onto? Like, what's your canvas?
Oh, my canvas was Bible paper. Like, when I ran out of that little piece of pen,
Mm-hmm.
what I did was I scraped down the cover of this. I would ask the chaplains when they'd walk by to give me Bibles,
Mm-hmm.
and these Bibles are blue. So I would scrape down the covers of them and just get a little blue powder at the end, mix it with water, and now I'm using watercolor, and the only color I have is blue, unless I come up on a different colored book, which is not going to happen really.
Right.
So I'll do paintings with shavings of blue.
Of a fucking Bible cover. I don't even know how you like thought of that. So that was when you were in county, or like when you're not usually.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
So that was when you're at.
That's the LA County. It's like, we're not even supposed to be there. That thing is condensed like
Right.
40 different ways.
Totally.
They found over 50 different airborne bacteria in the ventilation system. It was on PBS. It's not even supposed to be running.
Right. No, totally. So if that's what you would use, like when you'd be at county, what do you use when you're like there at where you're at now to paint on, like for canvas?
Now I like using cardboard.
Right.
Like, I'll get cardboard from like supplies that we have, whether it's just like the peanut butter lunches or razors or toothbrushes that they hand out. I'll get the cardboard boxes. Basically, I steal them, and I'll shave them down. Like, I'll peel the skin off them, and it has a really nice texture of just lines and like a real roughness, kind of fuzzy, and it absorbs a nice base, whatever base I want, and it absorbs pastel, it absorbs chalk, and it absorbs other mediums. Basically, like I've been saying, coffee. It absorbs it hella good to the point where I can just go over it with so many layers, and it can just withstand the beating. Because I don't like to paint delicately. I like to paint just like with industrial stuff and just like just take it on there and just layers and layers because it develops depth.
Mhm. So that's like your favorite thing to paint on, but like what do you like? I remember you talking about like using.
For now.
Right. What are other canvas type things that you've used before that would be unconventional? Well, I guess everything you do is unconventional because you're in fucking prison. So, but yeah.
Well, besides like when I'm spoiled, when like you'll send me canvases that you've like repurchased, when you send me packages and stuff, you'll send me the good stuff.
I try.
Besides that, yeah. Besides that, I'll just come up on like recently I came up on this legal book and it folded out 9 by 12 pages, but it folded out 6 times. So I have this long ass, basically gonna turn into a canvas now. I'm going to hit it lightly with very fine sandpaper.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Ugh.
And then I'm going to dip it. I'm going to dip it
Mm-hmm.
in like either coffee or pastel.
Yeah, can you tell me about like the sheet canvas that you use, please?
Yeah. So basically with the sheet canvas, I'll dip it in either milk for the starch or just use soapy water, and then I'll put it up against the wall. Usually I have to find the area of the wall where it's smooth. After that, I'll start giving it layers of paint, different colors, whatever I'm feeling. I kind of tap out, like I'm not really there. I zone out. I let a lot of the people know that live with me.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
It's not me being rude, but I'm not going to respond to someone that tries to speak to me while I'm painting because I'm not even there.
Right.
And whatever comes out, it's not necessarily coming out of my consciousness, it's coming out of my subconsciousness. It becomes like an oracle, similar to an ink blot, like what do you see?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's at the end result. You know,
right.
Like it's what you see is really in your own subconsciousness. This is something that's coming out of my subconsciousness, but when you stare at it and you look at it, it's going to be out of yours. But it's kind of like, it's hard to put into words. It's not ineffable, but it's just something that I haven't really practiced in putting into words. But it's just like a series of layers and layers and layers, because the subconscious is pretty much an infinite thing. I mean, it's not completely infinite, but it's quite infinite. If I could even say that without being, contradicting.
Right.
But it's basically what I'm thinking without knowing I'm thinking it, and that's what comes out. And I can say like, oh, it's this grandeur thing that's coming from the spirit world, but that doesn't really resonate with me. Like what resonates with me is just it's something to help. It's something to help. Like when you stare at it, it's not like, oh, that's this, It's not, oh, like, oh, that's a tree, like, oh, that's a house, It's not a Bob Ross painting to where you can just be like, oh, that's this and that, and boom, that's what it is.
Right.
It would take you days to figure out what's going on, and then you realize like this isn't what's actually going on in this painting. This is what's going on within me, and then you could work on yourself from there. Like, why am I thinking this? Why is this resting in my subconsciousness? And that's what I feel that I'm painting. Like I'm painting self-help. I'm painting healing. That's what I'm painting.
Did you always paint like that, or because I don't think
you didn't. Assume, like since I was a child, I would do like these little doodles, and I would do trades with them since elementary school. But when I started painting, I was actually inspired by my dad and my grandma because they were artists as well. But painting like this, not until I was in prison. No.
Right. How long?
I never had the opportunity.
How long into you being locked up did it take for you to like really start tapping into like that subconscious like oracle painting?
I would say about my 11th or 12th year of being incarcerated.
Yeah.
Because that's when I've always been like caught up in like occult, but never so much into the intricacy of occult science. So it's always been like abstract vagueness and the spiritual things. Like I would grab a few spiritual concepts and run with them with my own ego and be like, oh, this is that, and this is that, this is that. I knew everything. But it wasn't until like I started cracking down in studies and actually going in depth when it comes to like occult science and finding out what things are, then that is when like I was able to apply myself. And then I got a hold of the paintbrush and I went nuts. And then even after committing several acts of these weird paintings. After 2 years of doing them, I didn't even know what they were until another 2 years of study. And then I realized, like, oh, this is oracle. This is subconscious work.
Right.
I didn't even realize that I was tapping out, that I wasn't even necessarily fully conscious and aware of what I'm committing.
Mm-hmm.
It took about 2 years after my 11th or 12th year of incarceration to realize what I'm doing.
Right. And how long have you been incarcerated now?
Going on 15.
Right.
Since I was 16.